Welcome to the GSUTV Podcast, where Georgia State's brightest voices, students, faculty, and VIPs come together to share their stories. Ready to hear some powerful messages? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this new episode of the GSUTV Podcast. I'm Octavia Nasr. Our guest today is Jacquelyn Clark, a student of the Journalism Practicum in the fall of 2023. Jackie, welcome to this podcast. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk to me at the end of the semester. Are you extremely busy?
Oh, of course. Booked and busy.
Booked and busy. Actually, that does describe you, right?
Yes.
One of the things that I think it's important to tell our audience is that you were the star of the class in more ways than one, correct?
I am honored that you call me a star, and I can agree. You definitely made me feel like a star this semester.
You're so sweet. Actually, I did. It was my idea to kind of, put you front and center and recommend that we do a story on you, which we had a producer, one of the students, basically jump at the opportunity, and then when he said he wanted to do the story, we had many people volunteer. They said they want to work on the story, and I can't wait to see the final product. Of course, our audience will also get to see it as well. So, Jackie Clark, let's start with the beginning. Tell me who you are. You are someone with so many different facets.
So I am a small town girl. I was born and raised in Conyers, Georgia. I still live there, so I think that says a lot about me. But I actually have lived in California. I attempted to pursue an acting. I went to school out there, so it wasn't necessarily for my career, but that's where I was trying to head. But I ended up coming right back home to Georgia. So it's what I know, it's what I love. And I think that's what's been able to make me thrive in my life. I was raised with a great family. I have a little brother. So, humble beginnings, and I'm still living in the same place that where it all began.
Now, you're 28, we should say.
Yes.
You are finishing your undergraduate degree, right? I mean, where are you in your undergrad?
So, my profile speaks on my unconventional journey. I have achieved my associate's degree in communication back in 2019. I'm probably still a junior, credit-wise, but I'm working on my bachelor's for journalism.
And what brought you to the practicum? How did you find out about the practicum? How did you sign up? Can you walk me through that moment where you said, I'm going to sign up for this class?
So I believe there was a number of prerequisites that I had to take, and so it was kind of just what seemed to follow next. It worked with my schedule. I always like women teachers. I like to be taught by fellow women, so it just seemed like a good fit for me. I didn't really know what I was going to get myself into, but it sounded like a good step from my digital journalism class, where I really just learned how to put a package together for the first time.
And then you signed up, you come to class. With everybody, I'm talking about the first day, because that first impression is always so precious, right? You get to know people at a totally different level. In many ways, you're a different person. Do you feel like things changed between day one and now?
Yes, I have definitely grown since day one, and it's funny you bring that up. I felt like, not that I bombed my intro, but because there's so much to me, and then when you kind of prompted us to keep it to more of a skill, and that is what kind of was the focal point of the whole semester, was my passion for storytelling. It wasn't about who I am, it was about what that passion was and exploring that. And developing it in your class.
And your story was?
So my story is Hills for ATL. This is a community story, and I think my goal in storytelling is to be a voice for the community in some way. Typically the voiceless is the goal of the journalist. I actually was just organically out with my daughter's godmother, and I was just talking about the class I was in, telling her my interests, what kind of things I'd like to talk about, environmental journalism, community things, just health, anything just good. I wanted a positive story. And she is a perfect person in the community that, like, she actually gets out there. She has the time. She doesn't have kids. So she actually told me about Hills for ATL, the class that she attends. And she's like, that would be a great story for you. And, I came up with a couple other ideas that could work. But just since that one was an actual connection to someone I actually know, it was just the perfect end. And he responded to me through Instagram DMs, just like, yeah, you can come do a story on me. It was seamless. So it was made for me.
But the process was not seamless.
No, no.
And we will talk about that, in details. So before I jump into that deeper, I want to mention, you mentioned your daughter. So again, we're saying you're 28 years old. You're now maybe a junior in your undergrad life, and you're a mother. How old is your daughter?
She's 4. She started preschool this year.
Amazing. So you're a mother and a student and acting career. You're also an actress. How do you handle all this? I mean, that's a lot to handle.
It feels surreal even you telling me all of it, because I know, and it is a balancing act. It's a juggling act. In my profile piece, I talk, you ask, how is it possible? And I just have to give it to God, because you see my time management. It's not always perfect. I've had to grow into what I am now, and it still needs to be worked on. I'm still a student. I'm still learning in that area. But God makes it possible. So,
so faith, huh?
Faith, yes. That was my first tattoo. I have it tattooed.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
At 18, so 10 years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So again, I will talk about all this with you, but let's go back to our practicum, the Journalism Practicum, and your project. So it's in Atlanta. It has a human interest. It's a community story. It's uplifting. It has all the elements for, and also it's easy, sort of, in a way. It's accessible. The guy that you want to interview reached out and said, no problem. So all of it wonderful, right? You fell in love with the story, I could tell from day one. Like, you just wanted to do the story, and you went back and did so many shoots on your own without your team because you really wanted to do the story. So tell us about how you fell in love with the story, basically.
You're so right. I did fall in love with this story. I think my dedication to it shows in all the times that I went out to film. I connected. It just brought out everything I love about journalism, everything I'm after it for, connecting with people, having purpose in a story, telling someone else's story, being a part of their story, because this is something I may not have ever experienced. I would have never seen this had I not covered this story. So it just lets me know, like, there are actually more opportunities out there for me as a person to grow through connecting with people and telling their stories.
And then you had to choose your team. How did that come about?
So I actually chose my team based off of kind of just who was closest to me. It worked out. I sat next to Dayla because we knew each other from our previous semester. I know her work. I knew what she would be able to help me with. I knew what I would be able to help her with. So that was pretty effortless. I tried to get to know the other people, in the beginning, and try to get in as many projects as I could because I wanted to be a team player. Ultimately, I wasn't able to accomplish being a part of every single person that I set out to be, but I did my best with who I was able to be in their project, as well as Maceo. He was amazing, great asset to my project, and I wish I could have helped him out more, but again, sometimes it can't all work out.
And again, going back to that first day, right, and the first few classes where you had to choose a team, so many things you didn't know then that you know now, right? And it's good that you're saying that Maceo, for example, was a big asset, right? Because in the moment, you really didn't know.
I had no idea. I was like, well, I know Dayla. I don't know Maceo, but he seems cool. He was always communicating. I mean, communication is the key. So even if they had done nothing for me, just knowing they had my back was enough. But it's nice to know in the real world, they're actually there to help make it easier, so you don't have to do everything, yourself. So Hills for ETL is a free community workout class. It's guided by a coach. His name is Alvin Bailey. He's a personal trainer. He comes out every week to offer this free class to the community. It's held at Piedmont Park. And this is something that has grown over the years to the point that it's at now. It's a very successful event. As I say, it's in Piedmont Park, so it's very local to many people in the community. So it's actually a big human interest piece, big personal. I have a personal connection to it because I know people that go. So I really was excited to cover that and actually get the word out about Hills for ETL. I myself was excited because I want to try it if I can get the time.
That's right. So we did show up early in the morning. It's accessible, no tickets, nothing. You just show up and basically join the group. And we had a few hiccups on our first day, didn't we, of your shoot?
Sure did.
Tell me about them.
Okay, it's like, which one do we start with? We had equipment issue, just something as simple as it was the wrong part.
The plate, yeah.
Yep, the plate. We weren't able to mount it correctly. It wasn't
couldn't
the
mount
right.
the camera on the tripod.
So, and that's where Dayla, she was, she stood on that camera with you. You guys tried as we ran off with our iPhones, our smartphone kit, and thank God we had that. It worked out, and the footage looks great. I'm happy with it. Of course, it could always be better, but that's part of the limitations that you face when you're still learning. And even you're a professional, and there was things even you couldn't fix at the time.
And then we had to come up with a plan, right? Instead of saying, okay, let's all go home.
And that built confidence not only in me, but my teammates as well, which was reflected, Maceo reflected on me, just the way I built his confidence. And it was also a learning experience for me too, to build my confidence. But I kind of go into everything that way, just like it's gonna work out. God's gonna make it work out. Sometimes that's not, you have to plan, but you can't always plan for the unexpected.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So you did get your elements, you did get your story, and then you worked on other stories. What other stories did you end up with? Did you work on Maceo's story? Did you work on Dayla's story? They work on your story, the story you pitched and was approved. Then you work on theirs, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. How did that go?
So that was the goal. I did accomplish the goal with Dayla. I set out on my birthday to go film with her. She had asked both me and Maceo. He couldn't do it. I'm like, I'm going to be there, it doesn't even matter. As you get older, you're like, it's fine. It's good to do things like that on your birthday.
And this speaks to the business too.
Yes.
Like in this business,
you don't get time off or pick and choose.
Well, like a holiday or birthday or whatever is going on.
Yes.
You just show up, right, for your team. You show up for the shoot is at this time, in this place. If you're part of the team, you kind of have to be there.
And it's part of being selfless, and that's really critical to being successful in this industry, because if you're in it for selfish reasons, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be miserable, but being selfless and being a part of something that's greater than you is very rewarding, very satisfying, which is why I love journalism. And, I love film and TV for that too, because it's a similar feeling.
And team. Right? Like you can't do anything really by yourself.
No.
You need that team. You need their support, right?
There's no I in team.
There's no I in team.
No.
I like that. If you're joining us, my guest is Jacquelyn Clark, who is a student in the Journalism Practicum during the fall of 2023. And Jackie, we are ready to switch to Jackie, the actress. The aspiring actress, but also the one who's accomplished so much at such a young age, right? Tell me about acting. Where did this start and how did it start? And where are you right now? Before we talk about, of course, the package that's being produced in this Journalism Practicum that bears your name.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the recognition. Nothing beats that. This has been a dream of mine to be an actress ever since I was young. I did my first school play in 3rd grade. I was a pirate. And then in middle school, I got a couple leading roles. Fiddler on the Roof, I did Hava. I got to be Lori in Oklahoma. So I really found my love for acting and storytelling on the stage. And I'm also a dancer, so, former dancer. So just art and expressing has always been a way of living and being for me. So essentially out of high school, I went on to go to school in California to pursue, my education. And I decided I wanted to stick to the experience because the industry was booming in Atlanta. So I ultimately came back and I was very successful. And that's kind of where the profile piece picks up on my time in the industry in TV and film. But the love has always been there, and it's just kind of transformed into what it is now.
And what is it now?
My love is passion for storytelling. That just was the key from the first day of class, and it just rings true today. And I think that will be a really good guiding point for me to figure out where I want to go from here, because I don't want to box myself in. I don't want to close out opportunities and say I am just this or I am just that. I'm open to being all of it, and being the best I can be.
So you said the magical word, you don't want to be boxed in, right? But in this life that we live, people are defined by the things they do. And anytime someone is multi-talented like you are, people are kind of dying to put you in one of these boxes. And you might, at one point in your life, find yourself having to choose. So we're talking about journalism, and you said you liked environmental journalism. That's where your passion is. And then acting, because you also want to be a successful actor. And if you are to choose, if you are forced to choose, what would you do? Not many people have your options, right? It's kind of lucky to have the options, but at the same time, it can be a curse. What would you do if an opportunity presented itself in one that kind of forced you to choose that one and quit the other?
I would go with it. I would go with it without fear.
Either way.
Either way. Because I know I've put the work in, and I know my heart, and I know I won't go in a direction that's not meant for me. If it's happening, it's meant for me. But I've done enough work that I am truly dedicated to my career as a journalist that I don't think I would let distractions of TV and film stop me from that. So in that way, I wouldn't let a great opportunity stop me from actually pursuing what I feel I'm meant to do in this life.
Let's talk a little bit about the TV and film. What do you have your eyes on? Where do you go from here, as far as acting is concerned?
So what sticks out to me most about what you're asking is what I've been through, the experience of what I know to be true, the sacrifice that you have to put in. And I know there'll be sacrifice in journalism. We just spoke to it. But it's about what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're getting out of it. So when it comes to TV and film, I know my boundaries, I know my limitations, and I feel I know what I'm willing to be part of.
What would you call a boundary or limitation?
It's about knowing your value and just feeling you are where you're meant to be. Sometimes that's not always reflected in a paycheck or a particular role, what that status of that role may be. The things that have led me to my opportunities has been my integrity and my independence. I've never been with an agent. I can't say I'll never be, because who knows?
I was going to say, is there any chance that you can make it in this business without an agent?
I want to prove that yes, and I am proving yes. I am proving yes. That has been a huge part.
So you're your own agent in a way.
Yes, and okay. I advocate for myself. So that's why I think I can do both. I really do. I think I can do both well.
The limitations, you mean those, like when people think that you should have an agent and you're choosing to go at it alone.
Right? Absolutely. That's like at the forefront.
You talked about integrity. Do you think that in this business that might be challenged or questioned?
Absolutely. It already has been. And that's where you have to make those decisions. What do you really want? Because I think not to put it in a negative connotation or anything like that, but you do have to take on roles that are not you. And you have to be okay with portraying that. And at the end of the day, I want to have control over that, and you don't have control over that as an actress. You have to let go of that control. So I think that's very critical for me to have, which is why journalism, it's safer. It's safer for me. I don't know where that would go.
Now, there's Jackie, the mother, Jackie, the student, Jackie, the partner, the actress, and all of them have to kind of come to play, and something has to give. That's what I'm saying, looking back, right? For me, in retrospect, something has to give. At any moment, something has to give in order for the other things to thrive.
Amen.
Tell me about that.
I have filmed Couples Court, not as an audience member. Couples Court, Fraternity Court, and there's one more. But they're all filmed at Georgia Public Broadcasting, GPB. Mm-hmm. And I just would have these feelings when I was there that there was something for me here. And that was 7 years ago, before I even was dedicated to being, a full student, like a great student, dedicated to my education. But I am now, and I can see it. And I'm like, you were feeling it. You knew that Georgia Public Broadcasting was going to be in your future. I called it back then. I don't know what I was calling, but I knew it. And so for like these packages to possibly be shown on Georgia Public Broadcasting, like it was like a little like ring, like you see, like everything is connected in that time that I took there. Even just being in there, seeing how that production worked, it was all really worth it. And I made great connections. That's how I got even deeper into the film industry, was that exact place. I knew someone from, that was a cameraman that I knew from my first job at Panera Bread. So it's just like every single thing is connected. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It kind of goes back to that word, faith, that we've kind of talked about earlier and that you've tattooed when you were 18.
I'm about it. Yep.
So living by faith is also, extremely mature. You're not talking about religion or you're not being a fundamentalist in your approach. You're talking about something that goes beyond religion, something spiritual, something that's within you, that's saying you're on the right path, right? Something that like a higher voice or your higher self, and you're kind of working towards that. I can see that through your speech, through our conversation. I can see that. My question to you is, where does this come from?
Failure. You can't be afraid to fail. Those experiences, like when you hear me talk about California, you might hear a little something and you're like, what?
Yeah, there is a little hesitation.
Yeah, I'm still working through how I bring that up. I think because I failed. I failed what I set out to do. I failed to complete the school because I realized that was not me.
But wait a minute. How old were you?
I succeeded, but
exactly. Like, wait a minute. How old were you?
I was literally 19.
Yeah,
19
you're
years
a kid
old.
at 19.
Oh my God.
You're still a kid.
Still a kid. Yeah, seriously.
So you can't say I failed and what I set out to do at 19.
But that's how it felt at the time. And
okay.
and when you're at that age, you really are doing things not just for yourself. You're doing it to please your parents. You're doing it to make it look like you're not failing in life. Like you're moving forward, taking the steps we're supposed to take, going to school, this and that. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet. So I'm like, well, I like acting. Let's go to school for acting. But I was past the point of wanting to be on stage and singing and dancing. I still love it. I admire it. It's an art. But, oh God, it just was cringing my soul. It was killing me. I don't know. It just wasn't who I was. So that was hard. That was probably the biggest turning point to me coming back to Georgia and picking up my education at Georgia State University, literally. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to community college because I tried. I tried to go the big route. I tried to go to Cali, make my dreams happen, and slap me back into reality. And I needed that. I needed a reality check.
Let me just remind our viewers, if you're just joining us on this GSUTV podcast, my guest is Jacquelyn Clark, a student in the Journalism Practicum during the fall semester of 2023. So Jackie, we're back at GSU, and I've heard this from other students as well. You're not the only person, but GSU seems to offer something of a shelter, something of a safe haven or a safe space for people to be whatever they want to be. Is that your experience? Is that what you experienced at GSU?
I would agree with what you said. It's definitely safe. And it's not, safe is a good thing. Safe is a great thing, especially when you're trying to mold into who you're going to be. You know, it's just so hard to know in your early 20s. You have to go out in the world and experience things and work jobs and see what kind of people and what kind of things you like. So being in a place like Georgia State for as long as I have been, it's given me the time to mold myself, to be able to stand with my peers as a student, but also as an individual.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me that this allowed you to do all the different things that you wanted to do. It gave you that space and
the time.
And the time. In no way, when I use the word safe, am I saying easy.
No.
I think it's important to say that, especially for our audience, for people listening in. Safe means a place where you're not worried that you're going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. You're not worried that you're going to fail, or someone is going to point finger at you and say you're
not good enough.
You're not good enough.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the safety that I'm talking about, and I feel that this is what other students experience as well at GSU. It gives them that space where they can be themselves, and the time to kind of discover who they truly are before they go out in the world and basically be who they want to be.
And make your mark.
And I feel that a lot of the opportunities that were presented to you were a result of that. And one of the things you said in your package during one of your interviews is that you're choosing to go slowly in your education. And I think that is wonderful, that you have the space, you have the place to go slowly. You don't have to rush. You don't have to, no one is rushing you. No one's saying, come on, graduate, someone is.
My mom last night was like, yeah, hurry up, get your career, get that good paying job. I'm like,
Yeah.
But no, nobody's rushing me. It's true. I have hope. I earned hope. I didn't have it out of high school. I had to earn it in college. So, I'm able to get a scholarship. There's ways that you can make the longevity work for you, actually.
This has been a special episode of GSUTV Podcast. Our guest was Jacquelyn Clark, a student of the Journalism Practicum during the fall semester of 2023. I'm Octavia Nasr. Producing this episode is Professor Bill Chapman.